Serializable means that we're going to basically lock all of our data until we are done, because we're going to prevent every possible thing that could go wrong in a concurrent system. We're going to prevent lost updates, we're going to prevent dirty reads, we're going to prevent non-repeatable reads, but we're also going to prevent phantom reads. And this is where the problem comes into play. Because what this is going to do is it's going to prevent any data from being inserted into the range specified in the where statement. And that could be done by utilizing an insert or potentially an update statement. So it's going to lock my data until the end of the select statement. Let's go back to our scenario again. Let's change that to say, last name. And let's go ahead and say Harrison. Let's go ahead and do this. And let's say last name equals Harrison. And then let's come over here to the right-hand side, and let's just change it back to a Kong. Okay. So now that we've got our database back to the way that it was, I'm going to set everything back up again. So you'll notice we're back to a Kong. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to issue the top part of the left side. So what I want you to notice is that we got back 12 rows. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to update my database to say Harrison on contact ID number 1. Let's go ahead and just commit the entire thing. And then let's issue the second select statement over on the left-hand side. And what I want you to notice now is that we got back 13 rows. That last row that we got back is that phantom row. And in fact, just to highlight this one more time, if I update my select statement, let's just say contact ID, you'll notice that sure enough, that contact ID of 1, which was originally a Kong, is now Harrison. That row is our phantom row. That's what we want to prevent. Okay, so let's set everything back to the way that it was. So let's roll back this transaction. Let's set this back to a Kong. Okay, so now everything's back to the way that it was a few minutes ago. Now we're going to prevent that from doing serializable. So once again, we'll execute the left side. And you'll notice 12 rows. And now I'm going to come over here to the right side, and I'm going to try and update this to be Harrison. And when I issue this statement, what I want you to notice is once again, we're now just sitting here, waiting. Because the left side has all Harrisons locked and is not only locking the ones that currently exist, it's also locking the ones that don't exist. It's preventing anybody from coming into that result set. So if I come back over here to the left side and I issue that select statement a second time, you're going to notice still 12 rows and no contact ID of 1 inside of there. The first one is 353. Nobody's allowed to come into the Harrison group. All right. Now what I'm going to do over on the right-hand side here, I'm just going to make sure that has focus, and I'm going to hit stop, and let's just roll back that transaction. Okay, so now let's change from Harrison to Baxter. Now, over on the left-hand side, still have our transaction, still sitting there just as it was before. I'm going to issue the statement on the right side, and you'll notice that this works just fine. So I was able to make a brand new Baxter. I'm just not able to make a brand new Harrison. In fact, you'll notice if we try again, Harrison just kind of proves the left-hand side is still locking, still not able to create a Harrison. Now, I do want to highlight real quickly here the fact that whether or not I'm actually able to modify other data that's inside of the database does vary depending on the indexes that are available to SQL. In this case, there is an index on last name, and that's why it was able to just lock out the Harrisons. But if there's not an index there, SQL doesn't have any way to prevent any brand new Harrisons other than locking the entire table. So depending on your index structure and your where statement, if you do something as serializable, you may wind up locking the entire table. So be very careful about using serializable. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup work here. Let's go ahead and roll back the transaction over on the left side, and let's change this back to a Kong. Okay. And now let's take a look at one last possibility.